Okay, you have come on a good day. We are talking some more workplace stories, you know, the crazy ones. And the theme today is all about dicks. I am not lying. My friend Anthony and I are talking about everything from things that happen in the office to things that happen in conferences. And you don't want to miss out. So let's jump into the conversation.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a great story for you. So this is back, let's see, this is probably circa, let's call it 1998, 99, maybe 2000. I can't remember, but it's a while ago. So I used to work at this company in Texas. They are an airline. So there's only a couple of Texas-based airlines. Proud to have worked there, but when I worked there, they lauded, they put on pedestals these people that were there from the beginning, like they were the original employees, right? So, you know, when you fast forward 40 years that this company's been around at the time, they would have these things called rocking chair events. So they'd wheel out these people who are, you know, probably should have retired a long time ago. Anyway.
Here's Jake. He's 103 years old.
Right. Exactly. So this woman who was, she started out in marketing back in the 70s when this company started. And she was on the rocking chair. She actually worked her way up and she was the director of employment. So essentially my boss, right? So she's sitting there rocking away, telling the story. And it was supposed to be a story about doing, you know, just rolling the dice, right? And taking a risk. And what she was telling us was there was this time when they took their entire marketing budget. And I mean, literally the company could have gone out of business had this not paid off. That's how like they were diving into the couches or this, you know, the seats in the airplane for quarters. That's how bad it was. And so she's up there. And mind you, let me set the stage a little bit, right? The audience for this group was the entire HR department, right? So you've got, let's call it at least 150 people at the time in this room. And so she's talking, she's telling the story, and she's got this innocence about her. Maybe naivete, as it were. So she's like, yep, we just decided can't even say it. I know I'm leading too much, but she's like, we blew our load. So she was trying to say we blew our marketing budget, but if she said blew our load once, she said it like 5 or 6 more times. We just blew our wad. Oh no, it was our wad. It wasn't even load. It was our wad. I just remembered that. So I'm now in the back and my friend Heather is next to me. My friend Tiffany is the other side and my friend Brian's in front of us. We all start shaking, right? And I'm like, am I the only one that's heard this? Did this actually happen? This is what I'm thinking, right?
I'm too transparent. Like if that happened to me, I would like, and I would not be able to hide it. And then I would get other people to start laughing and they would ask me what was going on. So I would have been a hot mess with that.
We were close to a hot mess. We turned instantly into 12-year-old boys, all of us, right? So so that happened. She got off the stage. And I think pretty much at the end of the thing, everybody knew that and we were like, well, who's going to tell her? Because at this point, I was in my 30s, let's say. And she was like, she could have been a grandma figure, right? And that's kind of the vibe she was giving off. So nobody would tell her. So then fast forward months later, my friend Heather and I find ourselves in the elevator with her, this woman, she's brought somebody else on the elevator, so she's mid-conversation. She said it again. I cannot tell you how much I wanted off that elevator. Because, of course, I'm looking at Heather and she's like, don't look at me. I cannot laugh. She's like, it was bad.
I would have turned around, pressed myself in the corner of the elevator and started laughing because it would be the only way that I would be able to survive that elevator ride.
I remember we giggled a little bit, but kind of, you know, wrote it off as like we were having a separate conversation. Yeah. But she's like, I'm like, stop saying that. But how do you tell somebody that age demographic who's innocent?
Yeah, they didn't
I don't want to
mean
explain that.
No.
No, I don't want to explain that.
Yeah, and that turns into an HR conversation potentially
Ironically,
as well.
with an HR executive.
Right.
That actually reminds me of another similar story. So I worked as a investigator in that organization, and I would go around and investigate harassment, sexual harassment, discrimination. And there were 6 of us investigators. We were all around the same age, except 2 women. One was in her late 50s at the time, and then there was this woman who was in. I feel like I could say her name because she would find this hilarious. She was in her late 60s at the time, but she had more energy than all the rest of us combined. And today, she's in her 80s now, and she's killing it. Like I've actually kept in touch with her. One of the greatest.
Goals.
I want retirement goals. Totally right. Well, I forget the story or the case that was involved, but it was it was something about sexual harassment, and she was investigating it, and it involved the use of the word flaccid. Because obviously there was a penis involved in this, whatever story it was, and I honestly can't remember it. She didn't know what the word meant.
Oh.
So now it was myself and this other guy on the team, and the rest were women. And so everybody, it became comical, but it was falling on the 2 males to tell her. She kept asking for something. I'm like, well, it's kind of a state you find yourself in as a man.
I mean, we have dictionaries for a reason. We have online, like, you should look it up.
Yeah.
Like, learn some stuff.
Did you say that on purpose? Dictionary?
Yeah. Well, no, but it's appropriate.
But I just remember it got more and more awkward until finally, I think one of us just ripped the Band-Aid off. You're either erect or you're flaccid. And she's, oh. But it was like telling your grandma. Things you don't want to have or say to your grandma.
Yeah, and you often wonder, like, how those words didn't catch up with that individual. Like, they've never heard it before.
Yeah.
But then again, it's the same thing with my mom. Sometimes I'll say certain things, and she's like, what? And I'm like, oh, God, she's from a different time. It tunes it out.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
But now it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what's interesting is that when you're in the workplace, like, I've worked at a number of different places. There's always been a vibe with each of those places. Mm-hmm. And one of the places I worked a long time ago, we'll just say that, I had this coworker. She's very well-intentioned. I sat right behind her, and she knew that I was gay. And I know, shocking, right? I didn't know that. But somehow I became the de facto, like, to explain anything that veered outside of, like, heterosexuality, she just automatically would turn around and be like, hey, what does sodomy mean? And I'm like, 1, look it up, and 2, why am I the default for all of these things? I'm happy to like help you with it, but also, like, sodomy can apply to straight people as well. So I don't know why that's coming up. She asked me about voyeurism as well another time, and I'm like, wow, it sounds like you are really, like, diving into some experimental stuff because you got a lot of questions, but I'm not the person to help you with it. We laughed about it, but I was just like, is that what people think, that I just go ask all the dirty stuff to me? I mean, like, I kind of feel honored, right? But then I'm like, no, I don't really want to explain this to a straight woman, but, you know.
She was like, you're her gay seeing eye dog.
I guess. You know, because all gays, you know, we do the sodomy.
We do, yes.
We do the voyeurism. We do all of it.
We're
just all the things.
We're all experts.
Uninhibited. You know, I'm having sex every hour. You know,
really?
Unstoppable. Yeah, well, according to other people, I do.
According to other people.
It's just a rotating door, you know, just in and out. But I've also had, at another company that I worked at, I meet people in all sorts of different ways, but I never expected that in the middle of a large conference that I would enter a bathroom and have someone who was slightly inebriated say hello to me and then proceed to push me up against the wall and make out with me for about a minute. Now, granted, he was really cute, but then I'm like, I'm in a place where potentially someone's going to walk in And like knowing my luck, it'll be someone that I work directly with. And here I am, like there's a random person.
You don't
making out with
recover
me.
quickly from that.
Oh no, not at all. But needless to say, at that point in time, I'm like, well, he's cute, so like I'm just gonna run with it. But then every time I saw him after that, it was just like, ooh, okay, I'm not sure you remember you did that, but
Because
I
you
do.
were so drunk.
Yeah, yeah.
And you said, was that at a conference or
It was at a conference. Okay. Yeah. So that's good that it didn't happen in the office, but
so much goes down at conferences.
oh yeah, like just it's like people forget that even though you're in a different environment, still your coworkers.
Right.
You still have the potential to get fired for doing any number of things, like being incredibly inebriated or whatever. But I mean, it was interesting.
It can go
for
south
sure.
really quick.
Oh yeah.
Wow. And did he remember later, like after the fact?
He remembered.
Okay.
But I think he was also kind of like, okay, well, I don't want to talk about it too much because, you know, we have to move on and we have to do work together and so on and so forth. So turns out we're going to work together, but I didn't know that at the time. So had I known that, I would have been like, whoa. But yeah.
Good times. It's all going down at the conference.
Good times.
All right. Have you ever done the walk of shame at a conference? I have.
I have not. I have not. I've, if you mean walk of shame as in like going back from a different floor in a hotel, yes, I've done that.
Well, yes. No, I was thinking back to when I worked in higher education. I was at a conference that was held on the campus of a college. It was up in Rutland, Vermont. Very pretty, very remote.
Sounds like it.
And let's just say a good time was had by all the evening before, but I had to walk back to my dorm, which was directly past the dining hall where all the participants of the conference was.
Oh, wow.
Because I woke up late and I was hungover and I looked. So I got lots of questions later about where were you last night? And then the gentleman I was with got similar questions. So it, yeah.
You just reminded me about something. So one of my very first business trips for a particular company that I worked with, they, after about a month, they sent me to this quarterly conference. And there's like, it's a great way to meet your colleagues. And so they had rented this nice resort. And I thought, my God, like this company is just loaded because they've literally got these giant, like mini homes, if you will, all rented out for like over 100 people and food. And like, it felt very decadent. And I was like, wow, I'm glad I did this. Right. So in this giant home, I've got one end of the home that's just mine, like my own room. The living room and kitchen is like ginormous, like just very wide. I want to say like about 15, 20 feet. And then on the other end was their bedroom. Well, the first night I met a really nice straight guy. And I thought, cool, you know, we'll just hang out. Well, it turns out he was there for maybe about 3 or 4 hours. They had to move him to another room because they were trying to fit somebody else, blah, 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 blah. So they swap out my roommate with this other dude. And I knew from the moment that I looked at him, I'm like, uh-oh, something's going to happen. And it's not good that we're in the same house because there's a hot tub in back as well. So within about 30 minutes, he's like, hey, you know, I'm going to go in the hot tub. Do you want to go in with me? And I'm like, sure. Thinking this is a terrible idea. It's outside. I'm at a conference.
Danger,
right.
Anthony.
I've only been here a month. And then the other part of my brain was like, well, let's just give it a shot. So
what could go wrong?
What could go wrong? People could see, you know, potentially him like fondling me in the hot tub.
Oh, it was a public hot tub.
It was our hot tub, but it was in the back of this said place. But the houses on either side also had back decks. So if they're hanging back there, if they were at a right angle, even though we were wearing our bathing suits, you could still see that something was going on. So after a couple of minutes of that occurring, I was like, we should probably, if we're going to do something like that, we should probably wait and, do it back in the giant home that we're sharing. So the next couple of days of the conference were very, very interesting. And I was sad when we had to go home because it was just, I just don't think about those things when I think about going to a work conference that like I'm going to like meet someone from a different state and have like a little mini affair.
Well, it sounds like it went, there was still mutual interest after the first, how shall we say, interaction.
Oh yeah. And then when he would come back to Seattle for work visits, he would always hit me up and be like, hey, just to let you know, I'm, going to be out here. And I'm like, okay, cool. So it continued on for a little while and then just kind of did the natural thing where it burnt out and he left and got another job. But nobody knew about it. In fact, this is the first time I've ever actually like talked about it with anybody.
And we've known each other, and I've not heard that story before.
Because, I could tell you a lot of things, but, in the context of when I've known you a couple of times, I'm like, Rob shouldn't know the story yet. So,
well, for context, I used to be Anthony's HR person. So
he knows more about me than the average person does.
Would you say, though, we had an understanding? Like,
yes, we did.
I think we're kindred spirits, but we have to keep there's a line.
I never wanted you to have to lie about any interaction that you and I had. So I would be...
To clarify, not
right.
interaction.
No, not like
we're talking
that, like talking, like actually sitting like we're doing now. But more about like, I want to respect the fact that you have a job to do and I don't want to put you in a precarious situation.
Because I might have to fire you someday.
Right. Because like I could be like, oh, blah, 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 don't tell anybody. And then you're like, but you're going to get fired now because I am obligated to, I have this information.
Yes.
So fortunately I wasn't of that ilk, but at the same time, I also realized that there's just certain things that like, we'll save that for another time.
Fair enough.
For both of our, both of our protections.
You made me think of a story. It was when I worked for a certain potato chip company. Very, very famous potato chip company. You probably have some in your cupboard. And I was sent to, there was this national sales meeting that was going to be held in Vegas. And I had this innovative, groundbreaking idea because I was tasked with hiring certain junior executive positions, but they were multi-incumbent. So I had to hire a bunch of them. And so I was like, okay, all the people that need to be on the interview panels are going to be in Vegas. So why don't I just bring the candidates into Vegas and we're just going to, go through the interviews, right? And my boss loved it and gave me the green light and everything. So I go out a few days early because I think we did it. Yeah, we did it on the front end of the meeting. So I go out a few days early to make sure everything's set up, all the things. And we're at this place called, I think it was called the Green Valley Ranch. It wasn't on the Strip in Vegas.
Oh, I've been there.
We have.
Yeah, I know where that is.
It was actually, this is now 15 years ago, maybe even more, 20. But it was nice at the time. Very nice property. Right. So I go there, I check in, and everything's done. I was like, I'm going to I'm not a gambler. I don't like all the smoke there. I'm going to the spa. So I go to the spa, and there was maybe 3 people in there. It was like the middle of the day, and it was segregated. So obviously, you know what happens. Nobody's got any clothes on, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in the hot tub, blah, blah, blah. And there wasn't anybody to talk to. So I go in the steam room, and I'm sitting there, and this other gentleman comes in and talks. And it's funny, they didn't even have proper towels. Like you had like a hand towel. Like they had some over by the lockers, but I didn't have anything to say cover up effectively with.
Right.
So we're chatting, and it's very benign chat. What brings you here, blah, blah, blah. So he goes, oh, well, I'm in town. I'm interviewing for a job. I panic. I've never met the candidates at this point. I just know them on paper. This was before Teams calls or anything like that. I talked to him on the phone. So I'm like really uncomfortable at this time because we're both sitting there butt naked. And I'm not going to lie, there was probably a little like checking out of the packages, as
Correct.
it were. But
It's
once I
natural.
heard, well, it's very natural. And for those of you who don't know, that's what gay dudes do in a steam room. That happens. We're just going to own it. But so I'm now trying to make this hand towel the size of a bath sheet. And he's talking and you know, we're going back and forth. I'm trying to ask very almost professional questions like, are you ready for the interview? And I'm trying to figure out, you know, where. And at the time, it didn't even dawn on me to say what company. But I go, finally came out and I was like, well, what industry are you in? And he's like, oh, I'm in pharmaceuticals. And I just went, oh my God, thank God. Because, and he goes, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I said, I'm here, but I'm on the other side of that table. I'm actually interviewing people. And until this moment, I thought I was going to have to sit across from you tomorrow and ask you questions, knowing I've seen you naked. And so he was like, wow, that would be really awkward. And then the more he thought about it, the more like, wow, that would be really awkward.
Yeah.
So it was quite funny. But we had a good laugh about it. And I actually saw him the next day when I was headed to interview people, and he was headed like, good luck. Glad you have some clothes on this time. Can you just imagine, like, he sits down, I'm like, I have to get a replacement. I can't.
I would have to do the same thing. I'm like, would you excuse me?
Yeah,
and then I'd be like, this
we're just going to own that happened,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to do this.
Right. I'm going to leave and you're going to put someone else in here because I can't do this.
Right. Because I would have been like almost forced to hire him. Not that it was my call, but still. I'm like a little warm just thinking about like the relief I had in knowing that he was not on my
Yeah, I would have the exact same feeling. I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yes.
So did anything happen between this individual and you by chance?
Nothing too naughty. There may have been some interaction, yes.
Different interaction than what you and I have had. Okay,
exactly. Yes,
right.
But it wasn't. It would have gotten me kicked out of the hotel.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But good times.
You are stirring up so many memories in my head just by sharing things. Another company, different company that I worked at. I had these two ladies that I would have coffee with every morning, and it was just a ritual. We'd walk up, go to the coffee place, and we would pass by different individuals along our journey. Well, one day on our way out for coffee, an executive from the company I was working at looked at me and was like, hello, Anthony, and completely ignored the two ladies that I was with. And the very beautiful ladies, by the way. Beautiful. And so they would always tease me. They're like, it looks like this executive really, really likes you. And I'm like, oh, stop. No, he doesn't. Secretly, I'm like, God, I really hope he does.
Sidebar.
I'm like, he's not going to cross that line with me. I'm like, how stupid could he be?
Oh, so it was more that he might be interested in you versus he was being a chauvinist.
Correct. He was like, and I was like, maybe he is into me, but like, wouldn't you also want to be nice to the people I'm with? Because then if you're doing that, I probably would like you a little bit more. But he was European. He wasn't really thinking about that. And so they kept teasing me about it. And then the next thing I know, blessed work trip. We're on a work trip. And we're all hanging out at this bar. And I go up to the bar and I order something. And said individual's kind of like tucked away into a corner. And he's like, hello, how are you? And we just start chatting. And I don't know what led him to decide to touch my face as he was talking to me. And I was like, you know, you probably shouldn't do that with all these people here. But if you want to, you could do it somewhere else. I mean, to be clear. So it wasn't like I was trying to shame him. But
you weren't even being coy. You were like,
Yeah.
we're going straight to Final Jeopardy.
Yeah, if that's where your mind is, then here's not the place.
But in short, you were giving him the green light.
Yeah, just not out in public,
Got
right?
it.
Just so we're not, because I wasn't looking to like curry any favor with him or whatever, and it would have looked really weird if he had like done anything like that. But then the next day we had let's just say a day to do whatever we wanted around the city that we were at. And so we went on a little adventure of our own, and I had to be kind of stealth and be like, what are you going to do today? I'm like, oh, I'm not sure yet. Meanwhile, I'm like, okay, I got to get out of here because we're going to go somewhere. And so let's just say that we were able to have our own time that afternoon and hang out. And unfortunately, one of my girlfriends asked me how my trip was with said individual, and I just froze. And I'm like, that didn't happen. And they're like, we saw you getting into the Uber. I'm like, how many people saw that? And they're like, just us. And I was like, okay, well.
But you could have been going anywhere.
Yes, but I mean, the optics did not look good. And I mean, they also knew me well enough to know that, you know, I am a bit of an open book. So I just gave them enough information. I said, we'll talk about it another day. But I had a great time.
So we would call that enrichment time.
It was. And, you know, I also got enriched after that interaction when I found out he had a wife and 3 kids.
Oh.
Because I'm pretty sure I probably wouldn't have done that had I known that. But then I saw a picture of his wife, and then I was like, well, I get it now. So.
Oh, wow, that's catty.
Well, I mean, it just didn't match.
I can't wait to see the comments on that point.
I mean, not that I ever condone it, but I mean, I guess I had a soft spot in my heart for him, and like, oh, yeah, you're not getting your needs met.
So you threw him a bone.
Oh, I did. I don't know if throw is the right word, but
okay, tossed.
Tossed. There's a lot of words that are not appropriate,
sure, fine.
But yeah, a lot of bones. So. Did involve that, yes. Yeah.
Well, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for today. Thank you, Anthony, so much for being here. It's always a blast. And stay tuned. We've got part 2 of my conversation with Anthony coming up very soon. And in the meantime, don't forget to let us know in the comments some of your stories. We'd love to read them. And also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until then, this is Well, That Happened.